I've been looking at the different approaches I do when setting off my trains. And to be more exact, it's about the sidings we have on the UK-inspired rail network and the ultimate toolbox build. I think it's all well and good having these pretty sidings, but having them look active and having trains actually make use of them is an entirely different kettle of fish. At the moment, we make use of a few sidings with our intercity services parking up after travelling up and down the West Coast Main Line at Bletchley. At Wilson Junction, we have a few Network Southeast Class 321s, and we also decided to make use of the Wolverton Train Works with a few 321s parked up there too. So I guess you can say in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it in its very basic form. So what I've done is I've loaded up a small map, created a quick line from north to south. We have Dudley, we have Bridgeworth, and we have Brown Hills. We've also got running between these 3 London Midland 321s. I think they're 163 meters long. This will be important in a minute. That's why I've said that. And what I've done is I've created a nice flat piece of land just outside, what's that, Bridge North. And this is where we're going to sort of put our sidings in, and then we're going to implement the sidings and the uses of the usages of them within the line. I'm not even sure. I think there's only passengers getting on Dudley because I think it's the only station that I've put next to any residential. I think the other ones are next to industrial or commercial, I think. And that's why we're getting no passengers that side straight away. But whatever, it really doesn't matter. I've created this line really quickly. So what we've already got is we've already obviously got this switch here for where I've launched the trains out of. So we're going to completely ignore that, and it doesn't really matter. I've created this nice flat bit of land because I like to level off the land before I build anything on it, especially if I'm going to detail it and make it look pretty, because I like everything to look nice and flat and easy going. I will make use of different undulations in land a lot of the time. I'm quite a big fan of sort of building with what I've got. Even with the UK-inspired rail network, I haven't sort of pre-done that map. I've let the game generate me a megalomaniac map, a huge one. And I've gone with the terrain there, so there are a lot of undulations, and that's where it's not so realistic as real life, because it is a custom-made map, and it's not something that I've sort of scanned in, grayscaled, and redone an area of a map, which I quite like, because it's a bit more challenging for me in a different way. But for this area, we've just got rid of all the assets and flattened the land. So what I'm going to do first is I want to make my sidings. So I'm going to, you can use, if you want to use a station, you can use a station within this. You could use a passenger station, get rid of the platforms. You can have a few platforms. It's entirely up to you. Anything that a train can park at, whether it be freight or passenger services, that a train can park at for X amount of time, you can make use of. Because we're using passenger station sidings for this one, I'm going to go with a passenger station. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the no platform mod tracks for this, because I want to just create, we're going to have, let's go with 4 for this one. We're just going to create 4. We're just going to make it a little customization. We're going to, I really cannot speak today. We're going to make this nice and custom, and we're going to just go with the high-speed tracks because they match up with the rest of the tracks here. Obviously, if you're going to do like more sort of older looking sidings, you could probably add, you know, maybe the wooden track. Or if you've got any customer ones, there's really, honestly, I cannot speak today. There's something really wrong with me. If you want a more custom look, there are like the bullhead tracks and things like that, which are quite nice because they're a little bit older within that bullhead mod. And I'll put it in the description below. There's also some disused versions, so you can use those, and it can make it look a little bit like an older siding that hardly gets used, but you might want to park something on it anyway. Just something different, something I thought I'd add. I'll put the link to those tracks below. I think I've done a video on those, the Vigno and the bullhead options for that mod before. But just in case you haven't seen that, I'll stick it in the link below. Anyway, let's crack on, because otherwise we're going to be here all day. And I tried to make these toolbox videos nice and short. So we're going to scroll down, and we're going to find high-speed track. And I've probably passed over it, and you're probably all going, there it is! There it is! You've gone past it! But I'm still going to find it. There it is, high-speed tracks. We're going to keep the masts on. Now, I said that my London Midland trains are about 160 meters long, but I like to future-proof for longer trains in the future, just in case we upgrade those to something a bit more modern, and sometimes the trains are a little bit longer and they take a few more passengers. And what we're going to do is we're just going to stick this around about there, nice and simple. And it's called Bridge North South. We're going to call it Bridge North Sidings. There we go. Beautiful. It doesn't have to be level up like right up against it. If you really wanted it to, you could probably lay out some track next to it and then connect it that way. But I'm just doing enough nice rough sort of presentation. Actually, in fact, I'm going to delete that and I'm going to change it a little bit more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some gaps between my tracks as well, just to make it look a bit fancy. And I'm going to spin that round so it faces that way as well, because I'm just cool like that, I guess. And we're going to pop that in there as well. So there's our Bridge North Sidings. And what I like to do is with these is, keeping with my high-speed tracks, is I generally like to bring the outside in first when I'm doing this. Now, it's up to you. There are, like, there are ways that, like, the British sort of connect their railways. There are certain sort of ways they follow. I think they generally put all their sidings into one track and then one track joins. But you could be from somewhere else. You might be from America, where you like to have quite a few railway tracks and quite a few connections and quite a few switches. I've had taken a look at a lot of the switch work and a lot of the railways in and around the Pittsburgh area, where there's a lot of steel work still going on, and there's still a lot of, I think, concrete work as well. There's a lot of freight through there, as my game is going through the time periods, dropping me new vehicles, which I will never use on this map. So it's all up to you. Do it as you wish. Make it as efficient as you want, or as least efficient as you want, depending on how you want it to look. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this out nice and level a little bit, and I'm just going to hook that up to there like that. I'm going to bring that one into that one, and I'm going to switch that one right out to that one, and that's just bringing all these into this. And then shortly after that, I'm going to leave a little bit of space because I like a little speed. I'm going to stretch this out as much as I can to about 130, this switch. And that's to enable our trains to use both sides. Now, we're going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to bring this out, nice long one. And we're going to sort of have a little moment, and we're going to share the switch. We're just going to share that switch with the sidings and our launch bay there. And I'm going to bring that one out flat again, and then just hook it in. And we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to bring that one down for this one, like so. And then I'm going to add another little switch here just to make it a bit funkier. And we're going to do that with that one, just to make it a little bit different, make it a little bit more interesting. And there we have it. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pop a signal in this side. And I'm going to pop a signal in here. Okay. Now, that is it. That is a switch. I'm not going to put any switches in between, because what I don't want is my train stopping here, and I found that works the best. If I put a switch in sort of here, what is it? It probably end up stopping the trains here. So I'm going to give the trains passing through maximum opportunity to not get stuck behind anything leaving the sidings. I'm going to pause the game, and I'm not going to pause the time of the game, because that's really going to do my head in. So I'm going to pause the time of the game, because we're going to keep spawning loads and loads and loads and loads of vehicles. There we go. Got rid of that. Beautiful. Okay, and that's our sidings here. Now, you could, I mean, let's put in an asset, shall we, to make it look a bit prettier. Obviously, I've got my train shed asset here. I can make it 240, and I can stick something, and that's why I did a little parting here, because if I wanted to put a little asset, allows me to get a little bit creative. And at 240 meters, we could put a little siding in here. We could put a little shed, sorry, and we could put another one in there to make it a little bit prettier. Then we can paint it, and then we can have buildings around it or whatever. But this is just basically adding this. So we're going to grab hold of a line. Now, I'm a person that likes trains to terminate at terminal stations. And this will be the least efficient way that you could do it on this game. The most efficient way would be just to terminate it at Bridge North, have it back into the sidings, and then rejoin Bridge North and go all the way up. So how we would do that is we'd go, if we're looking at, let's say I'm looking at Dudley. So for Dudley, then we're at Bridge North, and then I'd add, after Bridge North, I would interrupt this, and what I would do is I would add this here. Okay, so what happens is now is the train goes from Dudley to Bridge North into the sidings, and then on up north to to Brown Hills. However, I'm not finished yet, because what I wanted to do after the sidings is come back to Bridge North and load. So now our train goes from Dudley, Bridge North, into the Bridge North sidings, back out to Bridge North, and then off to Brown Hills in the north. Then back to Bridge North, back to Dudley, and around we go again. Now, what we also want to do is when our train's in the sidings, we don't want it to have any passengers. So what we're going to do is our first Bridge North stop, we're going to go into this, and we're going to go into the filters, and we're going to untick load. So it's only going to unload anything and not load any new passengers here. Then we're going to go to our sidings, and what I like to do is to stop passengers actually staying on the train there and trying to get off here, is I like to, or having any passengers actually sit on the train on this platform, is I like to, that's what I'm meant to say more, is have no passengers actually sitting on this platform, is I like to go into this filters and then add load and untick load and unload. That way we don't have any passenger signals here and anybody randomly waiting to change service, because what you might find is if you have multiple different lines using this sidings and parking here, they'll use it as a transfer station and they'll pass between the trains. So I like to untick that. And then back at Bridge North, what you can do is untick unload and just have load only as well. So that way it forces our passengers to only load and unload on there. And that is that. Basically, we're controlling where we want our passengers to get on and off the trains, and we want an empty train in our sidings. We want everybody to get off the train here, ideally. Now we're going to go back to our sidings, and obviously with the was it the spring update of 2022, they added the ability to make use of more than one station. So we're going to tick all these as well, so our trains can make use. If this siding's in use, it will park in another one. And what I also like to do is add a minimum stop time to simulate them having a little rest. On the UK-inspired rail network, I've put all mine to minimum stop time of 10 minutes. So they will sit there for 10 minutes as if they're being serviced. Now, with that in mind, what I also need to do then is I need to go in here and I probably need to add 2 more trains to my service, because they're going to be wasting 10 minutes inside these sidings and just chilling out. What you will find is you probably don't always want your train station to be this close to your sidings, because what we got here is our train making use of the same railway. Because there's no one-way switch here, it's backing off. It doesn't really matter too much, to be fair, because it will happen in real life. Not all lines are locked into one direction, so you could do it like that. If you had a little bit more space, what you could do is add another switch just before the station and one way this either side. But as you can see, there's not much distance, so you're going to get trains overlapping the switching, and you'll probably end up with some sort of collision error, and you'll end up with your trains getting stuck and not able to make use of the line and complete their routes, and you'll end up with a whole lot of mess. Anyway, there we go. There's one of our first trains making use of our, what are they called again? Bridge North sidings. And that is about it. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. I wanted to make it quick and simple. As I said, I've made use of a lot of these different sidings on the UK-inspired rail network, and I just like them because they add a little bit of realism. Once you get the detailing going, once you add some fences and get some different bits and bobs going, it just adds a little bit of realism, a little bit of eye candy, a little bit of more going on. So when you're also doing your cab rides with your other trains, you pass through yards like this and they're not empty, and you don't always just have to use assets for the trains then as well. You can get creative and start adding different trains and different services and creating different yards for different types of trains as well, which is always cool. I quite like it. I think it's fun. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you create a siding in Transport Fever 2. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to see any more videos like this or any toolbox videos, obviously hang around. There'll be some links at the end. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.